looking at Wednesday today, the 18th, and as you can see, there are very few candles this morning. It's pretty slow, and we seem to be staying within a very narrow band. You can see that's overnight. It typically does that. What's interesting to me is you can see the overnight patterns previously, and they were trending up overnight here and here and here. Not this one that's behind my my order. That one is going down a little bit. But the fact that it's going flat is kind of interesting. There's not like a lot of upward momentum, excitement, bullish excitement, or anything like that. And it also seems to be kind of staying under that Fibonacci line, that pink line, which is the highest that it was that it hit altogether ever. And so there's that. And then there's also on the 20-day 1 hour chart here, you can see that it is actually holding at the gold SMA. So we've got a support there. So we are kind of stuck in this little rut right here. And until it makes a major movement, we really don't know which way it's going to go. So how to trade this? Actually, trading flat areas is kind of easy in a way, because you're not worried about big movements one way or the other. We always want to be ready for them if they do happen, and be prepared. But we can see that it probably isn't going to go too much above this or too much below that. So that right over here is this little band right through here. So as you can see, we are near the top of that, and we have a red candle. The MACD looks good for dropping, and the RSI is on the upper end of medium, I guess. So anyway, so I did a short here. Let me go back one more time. There's one more piece of information that I forgot to talk about. So actually on the 4 hour chart down here, you can still see that the MACD has just crossed and is dropping. And so there's a lot of weight put on the fact that it's really high right now. And until that MACD comes down, either by it going flat for a while, like it did here. See, it kind of went flat through this area, and it dropped the MACD down as soon as it got down to the the middle part right through here. Then it went up. So that's kind of what we're waiting for. We're waiting for the MACD to drop, and it's possible that that will mean a big price drop. It's possible it'll mean it'll go flat for a while. And on the 1 hour chart, it does kind of look like it's maybe tipping up. So they are conflicting bits of information right through there. Those are the long-term charts. I'm probably not going to go back to those again. But it is interesting to me that it's not super decisive one way or the other. So again, kind of pointing towards the staying in the flat range for a while, not making huge big movements one way or the other. All right, so I got into a short here, and I did not have a stop or an exit order placed because I didn't want to get stopped out, and I was almost certain that it was going to drop, and probably drop around to this range, to the bottom of these peaks or these troughs right here. So just kind of waited it out. And this is about 2.5 minutes before the opening bell, and it kind of played around with it for quite a while. It was pretty slow. And then just after the opening bell, it was a little bit scary because it did kind of zip up there, but then it immediately dropped. And I was happy with getting out here, but it continued to drop past that before it executed the order, which was awesome because that made my first trade quite large, 262. And as it turns out, I could have held on even longer, but that was too much risk for me, and I was happy with this trade. So having such success on the very first trade, I didn't feel highly motivated to take a lot of risk for the next few trades. So I waited until we saw 2 little candles here, and the MACD was just turning, and I got into a long. Now I'm going to ride it up. It tried and then failed. Actually, I haven't quite gotten executed yet. It dropped down below my order before it filled. So I'm actually going to get filled at a lower price than I had originally said. And it also looks like, we're just hanging above this support level here. So it's possible it may drop down to that point before it turns. And this is just about almost premature. You can see a dark red candle, but that's the only evidence that this is ready to turn at this point. So it's possible that I got in a little bit too soon. We'll have to see. And therefore, I did not put in a stop or limit order. Sure enough, it just had a wick real quick. It dropped down to that point, and you can see that it did get down to that point, but then it bounced right back up again. So at this point, I said, okay, I think I can wait it out. I think it's probably going to get up to this point up here, which is a pretty big trade. And just to be on the safe side, I decided at this point, if it did drop below that last tick, I didn't want to really be in there. It's possible it could drop even further, and that would not be good. And this was really struggling to get up. It felt like it was really struggling. So I just wanted to be cautious. And at the very last second, I dropped it down just a little bit more. I know that would be a huge loss. Let's see, that's 150, not quite all the profits that I've made, but a good bit of them, more than half. But I really didn't think it was going to drop down. I really, really didn't. I felt like it was probably going to bounce up at that point. And so I did wait it out there, and it is 9:36. So I've been trading now for a few minutes, not very much time at all. And it does now look like it's going up. It's in pretty good momentum going up there. But then it petered out again. So I was like, ooh, I don't know. It's just a little, it's really fighting it. And you can see on the longer term charts, I went actually to the 5-minute chart, which is kind of unusual. I don't usually use that one. But you can see a big drop. So a lot of downward momentum. And then you can kind of see one of these step places where either it could like take a little break before it drops again, or that might be the beginning of it turning up. And I don't know yet which way it's going. It's 50-50 at this point. So I wanted to raise my stop up as tight as I possibly could without the risk of getting stopped out. And at this point, I would be losing $100. So that's still not too bad. I would still have 150 in my account there. So I felt like that was about as much risk as I wanted to put on the table. And I still thought it more than likely that it was going to get up there. I did lower the limit order below the orange SMA, which was dropping as it was doing its indecisive moves. The MACD is the only really big piece of news that I'm holding on to, a hope, because I'm really seeing that it's going to touch, those two lines are going to touch, and then it's probably going to get up there. And when they touch, the magic happens. That's when either it decides it's going to drop or it just zips up there. So until that point, it's a little iffy. All right, we are getting really, really close. And at this point, I just kind of gave up. I just decided it just didn't want to get above that point. I lowered my limit order to one tick above where I got in and got filled at that point. And of course, at that point, that's when it zipped up past the point where I thought it was going to go even. So as it turns out, I would have been fine, but I just wasn't willing to put that much risk on the table. So anyway, I didn't lose anything on that trade. Now with that mindset, that it was fighting to go up, I got into a short here at this point, because it did seem to be struggling to get above that gold SMA there. So I got into a short there, put in a stop order one tick above that, and a limit order down here on the blue line. And I canceled my stop because I felt like it probably wasn't going to go up very far if it did go up at all. And I was pretty certain it was going to drop because we're seeing lower lows right through here. It looked to me like it was downtrending. And even if it got up to this point, I felt like it was probably not going to stay there real long and it would drop. And you can see that point over here, that blue line, would still be, right around this area here. So that would be, not a lot of risk on the table there. Okay, so I canceled the stop And then when it started to really show signs of it dropping, I put it back in again. I really figured there's no way that this stop is going to get filled. I'm not worried about it. It's going to continue to drop. I was almost certain. And then as it dropped, I lowered my stop to kind of lock in my profits. And when it bounced off of this orange SMA, I got a little worried. And sure enough, the stop got filled. And then it immediately dropped down. I would have been fine to hang on again. I just played it extra cautious. Don't really regret it. I'm at 350 now with 3 trades, and it's 9:50 in the morning. So I've been trading for almost a half an hour. That's not long, and I've got a lot of things to do today. So I'm happy with today's trading. And there's the trades that I made, the big one, and then the 2 littler ones. And for the future, for predictions, it is still a little iffy. I mean, we have dropped below the lows that we have formed overnight. So there is a little bit of downward momentum there. And if you remember on the 4-hour chart, it did look like it was going to be downtrending or flat. So I'm still not seeing any decisive moves either direction. I could see it staying flat and not going much farther down. I could also see it dropping quite a bit today. So just have to see. I don't know what to expect.